Good morning. Welcome to EXSIN Live. Phil, we don't have any technical problems.
Are you sure?
Not yet anyway. I'm sure somebody said we're going to say we can't hear you.
Turn the
Comments on. No, that's not. That's not.
Well, Matt's going to be here.
Hopefully. We love Matt. All right, comments are. We're good. Hey, everybody. Dave and Phil with EXSIN Live, and today we are going to talk about cash flow. Yes, and we're going to talk about it.
I need some. I want a vacation.
Well, when you have a lot of money, you don't worry about it as much, but we see businesses all the time getting in a cash flow bind. And we're going to talk about 5 indicators as described by Matt Gillman in an article he just wrote, and walk through those with me. And if any of these apply to you, you need to get a better handle on your cash flow.
Yeah, I mean, cash flow, we talk to clients all the time. They don't have a sales problem. They don't have a production problem. They don't have a lot of these problems, but they do have cash flow issues. And it affects businesses of all size. If you're mega, even Tesla can be affected with a cash flow issue.
Yep.
They're usually not, but they can be. I knew my buddy Matt would like this topic. Yeah, you can grow yourself to death. There's no doubt about it. I mean, you've got to, we always talk about controlled growth. And what we could replace that with is control your cash flow, right?
Yeah,
because it's
and a lot of companies, they get ahead of themselves. They have pending contracts. They think all these are going to happen. So they start hiring all these people, and they get themselves in a place where now they got to let people go, or they don't want to let people go, so they're paying them out of their pocket and putting themselves in a bad position. So we're going to talk about these 5 things. And if you're a business owner, I don't care what size businesses are, you need to live by your profit margin. Yeah. And you need to make sure that your payables and receivables are in sync so you can ensure your cash flow stays in the place where you stay cash flow positive.
And it's challenging because when growth opportunities present themselves, it's very difficult because you get the call from your sales rep and say, "Boss, great job, great news. We just closed the Smith account." And he's excited, salesman's excited because he's made a big sale, or she just made a big sale. Business owner's excited in the moment, and then they hang the phone up and they're like, "Okay, how are we gonna do that? Because we need to go acquire this, and we need to get this, and we need these people, and it's just money out the door." So you've got to really understand what you can and cannot take on while maintaining financial discipline inside the business. That's the tough thing.
That's a fact.
And
it happens.
Affects everybody.
The supply chain challenges recently have not made this any easier for companies. So, if you have a business and you're having this problem or these indicators, you need to get a handle on it real quick. And we'll talk about, at the end of these 5, we'll talk about some things you can do to protect yourself and keep yourself viable and work, especially as we head into a high inflationary period and potentially the R word. So the first sign...
Recess?
Oh, we go to recess.
I'm going to recess.
Recess again. Sweet. Going to the swings.
Oh boy.
You jump off
I was a teeter-totter guy.
I like jumping off the
like
swings. See how far you can jump out.
Yeah.
I guess kids can't do it anymore.
Well, no, not without a helmet, elbow pads,
Right.
knee pads, breast protector. Got to protect everybody from themselves.
They land in a pool full of...
That's how you learn. You learn by bloodying your nose. Anyway, I digress.
So the first one is your customers are not paying on time. If you are constantly chasing down late invoices, you might have a cash flow problem.
Yeah, I mean, listen, don't get me wrong. Having good processes in place for receivables is an integral part of every organization, or should be. Understanding that, because then you can manage your cash flow, but the one big variable is this: do they pay on time? So if terms are 60 days or 30 days, some businesses, we work with some businesses that it's 90 days. I mean, you've got to really have disciplines with your cash flow. And if somebody, let's say it's 60 days and they don't pay you until 90 days, or God forbid 120 days, what are you going to do? Call and tell them no? I mean, and a lot of, it's ironic, a lot of the slowest paying people are the bigger companies who can get away with doing that. and they're pushing out that money for that float, and they're just doing a lot of stuff that just isn't, it hurts a small bit. They're managing their cash flow.
I mean, they're doing it to you because they're in the same boat.
So it's a dance, right? It's a dance.
So the second one, and this is really my favorite, you spend more than you earn. If you spend more than you earn, you might have a cash flow problem.
Not might, you will. And most people put this in people's personal life. If you spend more cash than you have, but you are hitting that hip and pulling out that credit card every month, not only do you have a cash flow problem, you're ignoring the fact that you have a cash flow problem, and you're living way beyond your means.
So now you have an interest problem.
And you're creating a debt that you may never get out of. So you gotta be careful with that.
Yeah, and I'm gonna get a little bit, I don't know if "clear" is the right word, but this is the reason things are happening in our country right now, right? We have
20-minute show, Dave. We may not have time.
We have a cash flow problem. We are spending more than we earn. We're giving checks to everybody. You cannot do that. If you're a household, if you're a business, if you're a country, any of those three, you spend more than you earn. Buckle up, Buttercup. It's gonna be a long ride.
Yeah, and I mean, you can point to a lot of things, but it's not just domestically. It's, we're giving money to, feels like half the countries in the world. It's probably more than that, actually. So it all adds up, but you're writing checks that you can't cover. I mean, that's the bottom line.
Son, you're writing checks your body can't cash.
That ain't no
Popped into
lie.
my head.
That ain't no lie.
Yeah.
Matt had a great comment. Another hard lesson was belief that making a profit is enough. Profit must be greater than payments and cash outflow. Absolutely.
Yep.
You cannot just look at your bottom line and say, "Oh, I'm making a good profit." To Matt's point, that's spot on. They got to be greater than your payments and your cash outflow.
That's fact.
And it's one of the biggest challenges that people have, and unfortunately, most people don't ask for help until they're already in the problem. And once you're in the problem,
nobody wants to help.
Well, and even if they do, you have very limited options on what you can do to help people. I mean, there's only so much you can do, and then they say, well, maybe I need to go find private money. Well, most private money guys, for small businesses, they're not interested in giving their money to a business that's in trouble. So it's this very complicated. What is that on my hand?
It's magic.
It's this very complicated thing that just doesn't go away.
It's magic. I don't know.
I got hand tattoos. Look at there.
That's your skeleton.
Ooh, that can't be good. But anyway, you got to really watch. You got to watch everything about your cash flow at all times, because you can get fake, to Mac's point, and say, well, I'm making a profit, things are good. Not if you don't have the cash flow.
Yeah, you're not going to have a profit for long. I mean, that's a fact.
Well, you can even have a profit, but if you can't make payroll, right?
It doesn't matter. You don't have a business. Everybody leaves.
Right.
So the next one, number 3, is if you pay your bills and creditors late, you might have a cash flow problem.
Yeah, I had a good friend of mine whose attitude was, well, they know where I live. They can come get the money. And I'm thinking, dude, first of all, that's wrong. Let's start with the basics. That's just wrong. But it's not hard to identify if you have a cash flow problem. It's not difficult.
Nope.
I mean, you feel it in here. I mean, and listen, I've been there as a guy that's built. I mean, I've been there. You got more payroll than you got money in the bank. Payroll's in 2 days. You're $80,000 short just to cover payroll, and and it's amazing how entrepreneurs pull it off and they keep things going. Usually, how they're pulling it off though is they're robbing Peter to pay Paul, and hopefully at some point they hit a lick and they get back in shape and are able to get back on track and they address those problems. But that's where most companies, the end is near when you start doing crazy things like calling, these high interest loan places and, paying, you borrow $200,000 and when you pay it, you got 12 months to pay it back. And oh, by the way, you borrowed $200, but you're going to pay back $260,000, And there's companies out there that do that all day, and you can say they're preying on people in desperate spots, but you can make that argument, but you can also make the argument that you've bought yourself 12 months
to figure it out.
I mean, and so, but either way, it's expensive.
Yeah, and it's more common than you think.
Yeah,
it's
much
the sad
more.
part. We deal with it quite a bit with companies and having to walk them out of this challenge. The fourth thing that might say you have a cash flow problem is you and your employees are overworked. Now, what I would say, if you're an entrepreneur, it's an all-in. If you're a small startup, you're all in. If you're not all in, you're not going to get there. And this one isn't as prevalent in a cash flow problem as other things, but it's something to be aware of.
Yeah, and listen, you got to hire the right amount of people. I mean, employee burnout is a real thing, and every employee, there's a lot of data on this. Every employee you lose, the low end is it's 1 year's salary is what you lose when you have to hire somebody. On the high end, it's like 250% of the one. I mean, it depends on the jobs and stuff. But either way, you got to pay attention to employee burnout, but you also got to pay attention to are they really burning out, or are they not managing their time correctly? Are they not doing things correctly? Is there other problems inside the organization to where you have, that's really freaking me out. Where there's people that,
cool.
Yeah, well, where there's people, I got a dot right in the middle of my feet.
You have the dot every time.
I do? Why is that?
It's the light.
The light off my head? But you gotta really watch. I've never paid attention to that before. You gotta really watch. Sorry, I'm a simple guy, Dave. But you gotta really watch it that you're not getting snookered also, right? Because one of the bad things that company owners will do or leadership teams will do is when it gets really busy, they think they have to go out and hire more people. That's not always the case too. You hire what you need to hire based on what your cash flow and your business allows you to do. We had a communication with a client that was talking about another company doing something. Shiner, that's my buddy. But hey, that's nicer than a lot of things I've been called, Matty. So, but anyway, company's got to make a profit. You've got to go out. I've had a few shiners in my day. Yeah, you got to go out and make sure that the decisions you're making are based on really strong financial disciplines and not just emotion or reaction to a situation that's presented right this very second.
That's fact.
Yeah.
And as hard as it is, the last solution is hire more people.
Yeah.
You got to make that's got to be a thoughtful process and solution.
Yeah.
Process to get to that solution, and you've got to look at your numbers and what your cash flow is and what your job board looks like and what you're outputting, what your throughput is, all those things that are coming together, and you have to do the math.
Yeah.
And a lot of companies don't do the math; they don't think about it. The last one, number 5, if you're using your personal finances to cover your business expenses, you might have a cash flow problem.
Yeah, and this really catches small businesses, right, where they've launched a business, and it really happens a lot, even when they start making money a little bit, Dave, and they just intermingle everything. Number one, from a tax perspective, that is a complete nightmare. Now, if you're a sole proprietor, obviously they kind of run hand in hand, but if you're an LLC set up as a partnership or set up as an S corp or C corp inside the LLC, you can really get yourself in trouble. But the bigger problem is that. And so many people, I tell people this all the time. How much money do you need to make to cover your expenses while you're building your business? What do you have to cover your expenses? And that's what you should pay yourself. When you're first building a business, don't plan on taking a couple trips a year and buying new vehicles and, doing all this stuff. That's not, now some are able to do that, but they're the exception. They're not the rule. Most people, it's a grind, and you have to put in the effort, put in the time, and you have to you have to do all this stuff to get to that point. But find out what you got to have to cover your essential personal expenses, and then keep everything separate. Pay yourself that amount out of the business. Everything else is business-wise is paid through your business account. Now, don't go bankrupt. I mean, we're not saying that. I mean, if you don't have enough money to cover your bills for this month, and you need to move some money from your personal assets over to, over to whatever, over to cover business expense, you can do that in the form of a loan personally to the business. I mean, there's ways to do that. Talk to your CPA and get good counsel on how to do that. But, the right way of handling it is you keep those two very separate.
It's fact.
So we've talked about indicator problems. So how do you prevent yourself from getting there? So first thing you do is, what are my expenses? What do I need to cover? And market and sell to that amount so you get there.
Yeah.
If you're not marketing and selling to that amount, then you need to market and sell more.
Well, and you also, when you're making decisions like, how am I going to price my product and service?
That's a good point. Yeah.
You got to start with, the market's going to dictate some of that, but you also have to know, what do I need to make from a margin perspective to make sure I don't have cash flow problems, to make sure that I am paying my bills, that we are putting money back for R&D or for hiring new employees 6 months, 12 months, 18 months down the road, 36 months, whatever it may be. You got to budget for all that. And that, we've talked about this. Budgeting is something that so few small businesses do, and it baffles my mind on how that is. But you've got to price your product correctly with the right margin in place to make sure you can do all these things also. You get caught up in sales creates a lot of problems for small businesses, because not the sales team themselves, I'm talking about the process of selling, because a lot of times small business gets so excited that they're going to close this deal that they beat their price up so much they're not making any money.
Yep.
I mean, what
you become a commodity and you can't live.
And people say that, I need the cash in just so I can keep the doors open. Okay, great. So that's like the doctor telling you have a tumor, and you say, well, I'm just going to keep smoking, while I'm getting this treatment. I mean, it doesn't work. I mean, you got to figure this stuff out. You got to have real financial disciplines in your business.
And if you don't, you're going to end up in a place you don't want to be, and you're going to end up having to shut your business down, and you're going to be upset,
it's gonna be bad.
And it's not going to be fun.
We work with one industry that is notorious for just throwing money at everything, and it's because there's so much money coming in, because there is in this industry, that they don't even think about it. They're just like, oh no, you need 5 people, great, go hire 5 people. You need 2 new trucks, great, go get 2 new trucks. And you're sitting there going, good God, at some point, all this is going to be paid for.
And the fun part about that is if you get disciplined and you do these basic practices, you are going to kick everybody else in the pants. And when the things get bad,
there's opportunity.
There's opportunity, because now you have a war chest of cash to do things. And this is the last thing I want to leave you with. If you're a small business owner, start building your war chest as soon as you can. Put away for a rainy day. Make sure you have that money set aside when things go wrong. Phil and I have an account that doesn't go below a certain amount, because if things...
It's going to rain.
If we have a bad month or something goes on, we're okay. We can pay the bills we have to pay.
Yeah.
I recommend every business set that floor and stay there, so when things get bad, they have a way to get out of it.
Yeah, you got to have some way. It can be very simple. It can be to where you're like, if you don't have a real complex situation, it can be very simple, like every dollar that comes in, take the golden rule, take the principle wrote in the best book ever, and put 10% of it, right? Just tithe yourself 10%, right? And just set it back, because you don't know when it's going to rain, but I guarantee you, if you're a small business owner, it's going to rain.
And just so you're aware, if you're not paying attention, it's getting ready to rain.
It's getting ready to rain.
So get your stuff together right now.
Could be an F5.
Get your stuff together right now. Be ready to weather the storm and go do great things.
Yeah. Because listen, you can do great things in a down economy. There's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of because a lot of people roll up tent, lay in the fetal position, suck their thumb, and give up. Well, if you don't do that, there's going to be a lot of people out there. The world's not going to stop.
No, it's going to keep moving.
And so you've got to stay engaged. You've got to keep doing the things you do well, but you've got to have disciplines in all areas None more important when you're talking about the times we believe that we're in and that we're going to continue to move in than financial disciplines. You've got to have it.
So, with that, this episode X Live, Dave and Phil, we're out of here. I think we're out of here. Are we out of here? We're out of here.
Goodness.
Trying to get out of here.